Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It is Ricky Ventures and Marlon Madden, and we are back with you again for another episode of the Success Journey Show. We are here with you at episode 101. That's right, 101. Marlon, what's good, bro? How you doing today?
Man, I'm telling you, it feels good. We've been promoting our 100th episode that we passed. It already feels like, wow. When I heard that, I was like, wow, I feel accomplished. 100 episodes. 100
episodes. And let me say it this way, dude, because we've released 100 episodes. Official episodes, like, all right, this is number 1, 2, 10. But we have over 100 episodes.
That's true too.
That have been shows that have been released on the platform. We just weren't calling them 1, 2 within the sequence. So to officially get to that 100 in the sequence, it's like, we're doing it, man. We're doing it.
We're doing it. It's a great thing, right? Just consistency. I tell people, a lot of people when they see our show, they see the new beginning, and they're like, wow, that looks really nice. It looks super professional, man. You guys must be blowing up, making all this money. I'm like, if it was for money, we would have stopped this podcast probably episode 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when we had to renew all our subscription at the end of the year. And we had to come out of pocket, right? So I'm telling you, hey, the reason I'm saying this is because people are seeing behind me. You're seeing these boxes right here, right? I know I keep on showing you these boxes, but the reason I keep on showing you the boxes is because they're not gone. Right? We have our bags in here, the bags that we show them over and over on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. You can go on there and purchase these bags. Remember, some of these proceeds are going to the Prince William County Fund Federation. Remember these guys?
Dr. Gaddis.
Dr. Gaddis. They fed over 40,000 families last year. So
40,000 families, guys. 40,000 families last year. Come on now.
So we're trying to keep that going, and we're sending some of our proceeds from the sale of our T-shirts, from our bags, all these different things to Dr. Gaddis, because we are actually trying to, or I say we because we became like family. We're trying to buy a building to actually do a youth center and all these different stuff. So I'm here to help her. The show's here to help her out, and we're definitely on track to make sure that you be a part of this journey when it comes to fruition, that we get that building.
Now, listen, man. Yeah, you guys want to be a part of the first crowd, man. We released this last week that we're selling items, selling the book bags. We want to thank you those that have purchased. Man, your shipment is on the way. So thank you so much for supporting us. Like Marlon said, you're not just supporting Marlon and myself. You're supporting all the causes that we're a part of, man. And just want to be able to give back to our communities as well as keep bringing shows to you guys, so that you guys can enjoy these stories that we are bringing to you on a weekly basis. For sure.
And once the pandemic is raised, I know right now we could travel. I mean, I did my first traveling a couple of weeks ago. I went to do some sightseeing not for the Success Journey Show, but for work down in Florida and Georgia. Come think of it, 2 states that think they don't have no pandemic, but whatever. Right? So, but after, when this is really lift off, Ricky and I have some big plans. And like we said, we've been footing the bill all the way through. So don't think that when we sell these bags off, we're just going to be like, back into our pockets. We're actually pouring it back into the show to grow the platform, to do what we're doing and bringing the positive stories to you guys, to ensure that you're not just hearing all the negativity that's on here. We're going to talk to a psychiatrist today, and she's going to break down a couple of things about with the human psyche and how we have been trained to think negatively. So we're trying to change that perspective on life, and we definitely want you guys to be on this journey. We keep on saying this, but we're going to be on this journey. On the 100th episode, remember we expressed to you guys that the Success Journey Show is actually going to purchase our first real estate.
Ooh, yeah.
So remember that.
You let them know. You let them know.
That 100th episode, we bring that out, and we're gonna start videotaping that whole journey for you.
Yes.
Equipment, lighting, all these different things that comes into play in order to bring this stuff here to you guys. So it sounds like I'm preaching. I'm preaching.
So that's you hear a lot of that today. You're going to hear a lot of that today in this episode. a lot of it. A lot of it. Yo, listen, guys, we are, man, excited for those that are first-time listeners. Hey, go to any podcast platform. I want you to first just shoot a text to the person that shared this with you and say, thank you for sharing with me the Success Journey show. Then the second thing I want you to do after you listen to this episode is go and leave a review on the podcast platform that you are listening to. Listen, without these reviews, guys, I mean, with these reviews, it's helping people notice us even more in the message that we're sharing with the world. So do that. But then 3, I want you to go to our website, check out all the different things that we have to offer, learn a little bit more about Marlon and myself, our ideology around dream, drive, discipline, diligence, and how that pushes you, our quad Ds, how that pushes you, propels you towards your success, or is the fuel for your success journey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go there. Watch out now.
Watch out now. Well. Hello. Yeah. So, guys, man, we are excited to bring these episodes to you. That's, again, the website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. We have a lot of things in store for you. We hit episode 100 last week. This is 101. And guys, we're picking it up. We are going to be picking it up for the rest of this year and providing more and more content for our travelers and our listeners. Welcome aboard this journey. And we're so happy to be with you guys as you're on your road to success. Check it out. Let's move to our next segment here. Like every single week, we come to you. We come with an amazing guest. And with this guest, man, we go way, way, way back. Man, I mean, going back to the part where I got to really pull up my memory, man, it was young. We were young. We're still young. We're still young. My claim of being old. We're still young. But amazing guest with us today. Her name is Elena Grant. And we want to welcome her to the Success Journey show. Elena, thank you so much for being with us today. How you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We really appreciate you coming. It's our pleasure. So why don't you start off by sharing with our travelers, and like we explained, let's do this little explanation to you as we've done to previous guests. We call them travelers because all of our listeners are on some type of journey. Mm-hmm. And when you're on a journey, you automatically related to traveling. If you're traveling your car from here to whatever, Nevada, whatever it may be, or California, you're going to prepare yourself to go on that journey. So as we're on this journey, we call all of our listeners travelers. So if you hear that throughout the podcast, you're like, man, who is this guy talking about? You'll know now, okay? So why don't you share with our travelers just a little bit about yourself, some of your background and things of that nature. What do you want them to know about you?
Well, first of all, good night, everybody. My name's Elena Grant, as Ricky said, he stated. I am from Berrien Springs, Michigan. I was born in Homewood, Illinois. My father was a pastor in New York and Chicago. So, I traveled a lot. I had to make friends, lose friends. So I went through all that adjusting and readjusting. I went to Oakwood College. I studied elementary education. Initially it was nursing. The Lord was like, no, we're going to do education. And the majority of my family are educators. So I kind of fit right in there. And I love to be creative too. So it was just a perfect mix. And I love kids. So after I left Oakwood, I went to Florida and I taught at an Adventist school there. And then I moved to Atlanta. I got married. And then I moved to Atlanta and now I work in the public school system. I'm a first grade teacher. I also recently got my master's in clinical mental health. So I'm also a counselor and I'm pursuing a PhD in childhood psychology. So I'm really excited about my journey and I'm so excited I get to share with everybody. But most importantly, I just wrote a book called A New First Day.
Yes.
Right here.
Right. Congrats. Yes.
And this book was written during March 2020, so last year, and this was during COVID-19. And I wrote this book in memory of my students because, you know, we were dismissed in March and I was really nervous. And I was like, you know, how are they going to feel going to not being able to be in the classroom and having to work virtually? And I didn't know how long. So now it's kind of been a year. So just making that adjustment. So Cindy is an African-American girl. I had to represent for my people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she is beginning her first day of going back to school during the pandemic. And she's going into her classroom and she's looking around. She's wearing her mask. Everyone's wearing a mask. Everyone's 6 feet apart. And she's like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And so in like the first section of the book, she has like a nervous breakdown. And she's like, I'm so sick and tired of this corona bug. And she starts crying. And then a few of her classmates, they chime in. And then she's like, what is lunch going to look like? What is recess going to look like? Basically, what is every part of my day going to look like? Because I know that students, this is their livelihood. They're going to school, seeing their friends, socializing, seeing their teachers. And so it was very traumatic for Cindy. So at the end of the book, she realizes, you know what, I can make it through this first day. I can make it through this school day. And she learns that she can adjust. And a lot of kids, we don't even know they're resilient. So she's able to push through, even though it was a very difficult time. Mm-hmm. And so this book, you can purchase it on Amazon.
Yes.
Book Baby.
Love it.
Target and Barnes and Noble. It's 100% online. So you can purchase it at any of those stores. But I think this is a great resource for teachers, for counselors, and for parents. And at the back of the book, I have discussion questions that you can ask the students about coronavirus. And I know a lot of schools are going back to in-person, so this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce them to this book so you can have that conversation. I know a lot of parents are kind of skeptical of having that conversation and being 100% honest, but I think kids, they know what's going on. They're not oblivious to it. They're very intelligent. And so being honest with them and being transparent with them and not giving them a level of fear, but letting them know that this is giving them that awareness of what's happening. So just giving them that space to have some relevancy when it comes to going back to the classroom. And I think this would be a great resource for them.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, I mean, there's so much we got to unpack with this because, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind was foresight. Right. Mm-hmm. So many people went into this pandemic, you know, no matter what profession they were in. And it was more of those, you know, just sitting back and waiting to see, you know, how this pandemic is going to impact our lives. Some people caught up on all their shows. Some people, I know I was one, I caught up on a few shows. I know some people caught up on, you know, some sleep, you know, people caught up on family time. And in the midst of all of that, you said, hey, you know, I have students that I'm responsible for, you know, what can I do for them, you know, during this time on top of doing virtual schooling, because schooling was still going on. And we'll talk about that a little bit and how that impacted you. But, you know, foresight, you know, to execute at that level, to put together a book, you know, and get it published and, you know, have it in your hand, you know, what gave you that thought or that drive in order to, you know, produce something like this at this level? What sparked it for you?
That's a great question. I've always wanted to write a book like most people. And I think for me, you know, God gave me the words because I remember I was sitting down watching my shows and, you know, God was like, Elena, I need you to pause. I'm giving you this time. And I think he did that for a lot of us. He gave us extra time just to get our journey back on track. So he gave me this extra time. And so I was able to utilize what he was giving to me and write it down and bring it into fruition. Yeah. And so I think that was very important for me to take that time and to listen to his leading and his guidance. And that gave me the inspiration to want to write this book because he said, you know, Elena, this is your time and you might not have this opportunity again. So you need to seize the moment. So I was able to do that during this coronavirus on this time.
Love it. So you roll the book out, you know, you get it to your students. Tell us a little bit of their response to just, you know, receiving this book, or you implementing it into your curriculum with the students? So
they're like, Miss Grant, you wrote this book?
Yeah, right.
And so they were excited and they had so many questions and like, oh, we feel the same way as Cindy. And they just, I know one of my one of my good friends, her daughter actually saw the book, the cover of the book, and she said, "Oh my gosh, mommy, that's me right there. That looks just like me." And I just love that moment because it's all about representing your culture, your people. And to have that, it was just really special. But a lot of the children, they were very excited about this book. And the majority of the parents and teachers that have read it to their class, they said that the children have received it very well, and they're very excited about it.
Love it. So, I mean, go ahead, Marlon. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask the coming together of the book, illustrator. Did you draw it yourself? Did you because you had to have a vision for it, and if you had an illustrator that did stuff for you, how did you put this book together? Because a lot of people see somebody with a book, and they're just like, "Oh, a book," but they don't understand the whole backdrop of what it takes to put that book together.
Mm-hmm.
And Marlon, I love that you said that, because in my mind I was like, "Oh, it's a book." But then when you're actually in the process, you're like, "Ooh." So initially I sought out an editor because I had already written the book. So I went out and I looked for an editor, and fortunately she was African-American. She was from Atlanta, and she's been editing books for years. So that was perfect. After I had it edited, I had in my mind what I want. I wanted to be very colorful, like me in my classroom. I wanted to kind of represent what I present or display in my classroom. Mm-hmm. And obviously I wanted the classroom to be very diverse. And the illustrator that I used was actually a friend of my husband's, from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. And she was she's actually getting her PhD in graphic design. So she was able to do that for me. And she actually had extra time. So I was happy about that. So this is top notch,
Yeah. Top notch.
Yeah.
Ain't no flighty book. This is top notch.
Right.
Guys, I'm going to pause right here just to say, hey, go into the link of the show notes right now. If you're on YouTube watching us, or if you're on a podcast, whatever platform, go into the show notes, look for the link for the book.
On the website?
On the website. Amazon, whatever, go ahead and purchase a copy. Everyone has or knows someone that has a young child, whether it be in the community, whether it be in your church, whether it be wherever, a young child, or a community center, YMCA, whatever, and get this book. Go ahead and purchase this book for them, because, man, we're going through a time in this world right now that we may not see for, how many years, hundreds of years, you know what I mean? And if you look back in time, there's very little documented that we can look back, early 1900s, that, when they had the swine flu and all that kind of stuff, or the Spanish flu, I should say.
Yeah.
There's very little documented that we can go back and touch and see what was happening in that time. So I love the fact that Elena documented this time period right here. And this right here will be carried from centuries and centuries, that people can look back and say, wow, what happened in school? What was it like in these kids' lives when the whole world flipped upside down? So really appreciate you, and really applaud you for putting this together and sharing it out to the world. And it's a great feat. So congratulations for doing that.
They're going to be looking for a top-notch book in 3020.
Yeah.
And when they listen to this podcast in 3020, they're going to be like,
I got to get this book. So I want to go back and peel some more layers of your journey. You mentioned that, you were going towards nursing, and you made that pivot to education. And you also talked about, the influence of educators in your household. Talk about that time where you made that pivot, what that pivot kind of looked like, so that our travelers can see that, your journey, there's going to be some U-turns. There's going to be some right turns, left turns, but you got to keep moving. So share a little bit about that aspect.
All right. So initially I went to Oakwood for nursing because my mom, she's a pediatrician, and I love my mom. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be a pediatrician, but I'm going to be something within the medical field. So I pursued nursing. And I think for me, I'm going to Oakwood. I'm from Berrien Springs. I don't know if you've been to Berrien, but there's just cows and there's grass.
It's Berrien. Yeah, Berrien.
Yeah. It's bigger than business.
And so I get to Oakwood. I'm like, oh, all these Black people are here. All these friends. So I had a great time my freshman year. I was like, maybe I'm just not made for this. I mean, obviously now I probably could have graduated as a nurse. But at that moment in time, I was like, okay, if I want to graduate, I need to find something that...
I love the honesty.
Yeah, you gotta be real. I want to graduate. I need to find something that is going to be more so my speed. So when I went to education, I was like a top-notch student because it was it was something that I really loved.
Yeah.
It was very easy for me, not to say that you should do anything that's easy. You want to push yourself. It was challenging because my teachers, they pushed you. Yeah. It was more like tedious as opposed to I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I solve this? How do I, work through this? But it was more of me taking that time and actually doing the assignments. So I transitioned into that educational field and I was like, oh, this fits. The shoe fit. This is right. This feels good. Like this feels comfortable.
Yeah.
And I did well. And then I eventually graduated.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing. So I want people to realize, initially you may have a thought, an idea, and then something can shift and change. And you have to be able to adjust and be okay with that and know that, okay, this is the pathway. Just, you have to be able to choose. That's what I want. Because a lot of people go to college and they don't make a choice. And sometimes they drop out. They don't make a choice.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't be successful as a college dropout, but if you have a goal in mind and you decide to change that goal, okay, to make that choice and then continue on forward. Just keep pushing forward and decide, okay, I made this goal and I'm going to accomplish this goal. Mm-hmm. And that's what I had to do at my time at Oakwood.
No.
So you mentioned that your dad is Jamaican, right? And so you had to tell your Jamaican dad, yo, listen, I'm down here in Huntsville and I'm changing up. How did your parents take that?
Let me tell you about my Jamaican father. There was one particular class that I was like, lady, she was just giving me a hard time. My dad flew from Berrien Springs and I said, Daddy, please don't go. He said, I'm going. So he went to the professor and he knows Spanish. So he did his little Spanish and charmed. He's like, okay, now I need you to graduate. Like he just went in there, talked to her, whatever he did. But Jamaicans, they don't play. You must go there. You must go to school, finish, get a job and move forward. You can't just play,
Probably 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't playing. You're going to graduate.
Yeah.
You have to pay for yourself.
Oh, man. Talk about the network, how important networking is for you. You mentioned how, even your husband had connections and helped you, to finalize your book for you. But I know even your network in general, going down into Huntsville, how many people you connected to. You made a reference to people say, coming from Berrien Springs, just to paint the picture a little bit, that was the first place that I ever flew to in my life.
Oh, yeah. We both went.
Yeah. So we both went. We had to go out there and do something, and we had to sing actually at the university up there, Andrews University. And it was like, all right, I'm Gary, get on the plane, and we get out there. And my first experience getting on the plane, so I have this big thing in my mind of like flying into New York.
Oh, that was your first time flying?
That was my first time flying ever.
Oh, ever. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I had to tell this guy. So it's a little sidetrack, right? But it's going to give you a picture of Berrien Springs and then relating to where she is now. So I get on the first plane, from LaGuardia Airport, New York. Everyone knows New York is booming city, boom, lights everywhere, flash. Get to, where would I go? I think I went to Chicago, right?
Probably,
and I transferred there. Okay. And I get off the nice big plane and they put me on a plane with the propellers. And I'm like, What in the world? Man, I thought these things were decommissioned. Oh man, so we get on that flight, man. The plane was super loud, man. I'm sitting there looking out, the propeller sitting right there. I'm like, dude, like where in the world are we going? We finally get there. My bags were lost. So I had to, they had to ship the bags to me later that night. So, I mean, the campus was beautiful campus. But like she said, there was nothing out. It was nothing out there. They take you from nothing out there. And that was my first plane experience. But now she mentioned she came from that, and now coming to an area where, I mean, for those that do not know, Huntsville and Oakwood, if she mentioned Oakwood College, Oakwood University now, it's a huge networking opportunity, huge family opportunity. Even if you have not gone there, you're like one person removed from the university, coming from the community that we're in. And just share like just how that networking has helped you and that community has helped you even now in terms of your profession, your life, family, and things of that nature.
So I love how you bring that up because I kind of live by the motto, the notion that it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Yep. So when I went to Oakwood, I made it I did a very good job with befriending a lot of people. Not to say I was close to everybody, but I kind of just made sure everybody knew my face, knew my name. And when I tell you that was so beneficial to my life, like I'm at a public school in Atlanta, Georgia. I've met about 3 people from Oakwood.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Like this little, I mean, Atlanta's it's a big city.
Yeah.
Not in comparison to Chicago or New York, but it's fairly large.
Correct.
And so I get to a school and I'm like, oh, I went to Oakwood, or someone who's like, oh, I went to Alabama A&M. Oh, I know people from Oakwood. So just having that, I think it's so important for anybody when they're in college, utilizing that time to getting to know people. So because you don't know where you're going to see them. I know there's been times where my sister's traveled to different countries and she's met someone from Oakwood just randomly. And it's kind of propelled her in her career. And the same goes for myself. So I think it's so essential to network because, we're all here trying to live this journey together and trying to just uplift people and move to the next level. And the only way that we can do that is if we're communicating with each other.
Yeah. Love it.
100%.
Yeah. So guys, man, we're tying the dots together. She shared where she started. She shared a portion of, I wouldn't say a pit stop on her journey in terms of the book, because it's just the beginning. This is going to be one of many. It's going to be a series. What did you do after COVID? That's the next one, right? Year 3 after COVID, what did you do in the classroom? You wrote it for what grade level did you target this book for? What was your target audience?
So it's for elementary grade level. So good. Mostly like K to 2 year grades, and then 6 to 8 years old. Yep.
Good. That's I said to ask that because I know you're going to have something for middle school, high school, college, going on and on. So we're going to be looking for a series from you on this material. But the thing is, right, I want people, the travelers, to understand, and I hope you guys are catching this right now in terms of her journey, is that when she first got to the university and prior before that, I don't think she was thinking about, okay, hey, we're going to have this book. I know no one was thinking about COVID, at that time, but as things started to line up for the network that she started to develop, the drive and desire to want to teach students and that really flourishing to her, going through whatever she had to go through to get that degree, whether her father coming in or whatever other support or whatever her target to teachers, whatever it may have been, get that degree to move on to then now, get her master's degree and now pursue her PhD. And in the midst of COVID, produce this beautiful, top-notch novel for these students to now refer to. It only came about by her just going through the journey step by step, right? So I want you guys to realize in this that you don't have to necessarily have it all figured out right now. And it's okay if you don't have it figured out right now, but really trust the process of life and say, it's all about the journey. That's what it's all about. It's all about just falling in love with the journey. And if you're true to yourself through the journey, then beautiful things are going to manifest itself through that time. Go ahead, Marlon. I know you had something.
Yeah. Now you're pursuing your PhD. You like torture. So what? Right. So I would say, what made you want to go into child? I know you're teaching, but what specifically made you want to go into child psychology? Because that's a very, specific. There's a reason, and so there had to be a reason why you target that field.
So I really love children, and I remember when I was taking courses in my master's, they had human development, and they talked about the child. I love those beginning stages, and all of those psychologists, Piaget, and Freud, and they talk about the child development. I love understanding that and knowing how children develop. And I remember reading this book. He was a child psychologist and psychiatrist, and he was talking about all of these different cases. And I was just so intrigued with it. It was so fascinating to me how the child's brain could just transition from experiencing such a traumatic situation. He gives a story about this boy who grew up with dogs. So his grandma died and his parents gave him away, and she had a boyfriend, and he didn't know what to do with him. The grandma passed away, so the boyfriend ended up raising him. And the guy didn't know what to do, so he kind of put him in the cage. He treated him like a dog. He just put him in the cage. And the child actually developed he started to act like a dog. And what dogs have, so he was still caring, he was still loving, but he didn't understand the difference between what's appropriate for human behavior and what's appropriate for animal behavior. So the psychiatrist had to kind of develop those skills. Like, you can't do that. You can't sniff people when you see them, because he would sniff them.
Sniffing butts.
He would throw his food. Like, he didn't know he
There was a movie about that, Dr. Dolittle, wasn't it? And Dr. Dolittle talking about that.
Yes.
They about to cancel him. They about to cancel him.
Yes. And so at the end, the child was able, obviously he was a little behind, but eventually he was able to go to kindergarten, and he was able to communicate and socialize himself amongst his classmates. And he wrote a letter to the psychiatrist and said, "I love you. I'm thankful. Thankful." And the guy was crying because, like, you went from acting like an animal. You couldn't speak. You couldn't even communicate. You didn't understand how humans, their facial expression, what does that mean? He didn't understand any of that. So from going to nothing to something, in the sense that he was able to communicate in a classroom with a teacher and to write and to read, is just so fascinating to me. And I know after that, after reading those, I've read several books on that, but after reading those books, I was like, okay, this is something that I just have to become involved in some capacity.
So do you think? So now you see it's getting interesting, because I have my own views. I don't want to share them because anyway. So when it comes to being a psych with children, how do you think, like that child, right? He didn't know how to speak. He acted like a dog,
right?
And then in a matter of time, he was able to transfer back to being a human. Mm-hmm. How much do you think the childhood, or we put so much emphasis that it's the trauma, or we place the child in a situation and saying, oh, it's the children, it's the effects of that child is what happened for his long-term life. How much do you think that weighs on somebody later on in life, if at a certain time that child was able to say, okay, I could transition from being a dog to being a human? Do we put too much emphasis on saying that whatever's happened in a person's life now is because of them being a child? Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a great question. So the brain, when it faces trauma, there's sometimes, if it's not addressed, it cannot be reversed. And so there's like a time lapse between that. So if you're not able to address that and heal that in that time frame, then it will penetrate throughout their adulthood. But there is an emphasis on childhood development because your brain is developing and you're creating foundational skills. It does play a part in your adulthood if it's not addressed. So traumas that happen with infancy, they have infancy traumas within infancy and your childhood. If it goes unaddressed, it will present itself in adulthood. Okay. So it's just like anything else. If you don't heal it, it's still there, and it's probably not going to heal the way it should if you didn't take care of it. It's like a wound. You have to take care of it. You have to dress it to not get infected. And if for not to essentially kill you, you have to address the situation and you have to allow it to heal. So there's a lot of people who are having temper tantrums when they're like 50 and you're like, that doesn't make sense. Why are you yelling and screaming? But because, when I was younger, I would be in the house by myself and I would have to be, and I didn't have any outlet to express my feelings. And then I would see my stepdad yell, my mom yell. And so in my mind, this is the proper way to communicate or to communicate when I'm upset. So if you go through life without checking things, it will present itself. It's like children are just little people to me. Just little people. So if that little person doesn't learn now or sooner than later, they're still going to display that type of behavior in the future.
So is there good trauma? I'm going to let you go, Rick, after this. Is there good trauma? I know trauma, we put a negative connotation on trauma, but is there such thing as a good, whatever the equivalent for bad trauma, right? That means if there's a good bad trauma, there must be a good trauma. I'm figuring. I'm not a psychologist, or psychiatrist, but is there such thing as good trauma?
So I wouldn't say it's a good trauma, but I think there's great experiences or moments in your life that stick with you. Like, let's say you are a child and you have a baby sister. And then you're able to develop a great relationship with that little sister. It's traumatic because you're going from being an only child to now having a younger sibling and trying to adjust in your life and trying to adjust your mindset and adjust your communication between your parents. But that would be considered a moment in your time where it's like, okay, this is a good opportunity for me to develop a relationship with my sibling. So that is traumatic because it's life altering, but it's something that could be potentially positive for you.
Wait, one more.
Go ahead. You got it. Good.
And why do you think people, like, I see it, why do people tap into, a lot of times we see people tap into the bad trauma and say, well, I'm doing bad because of the bad trauma, and not tap, and when the times get tough, they don't tap into that good trauma. Why do they tap into the negative versus the positive? And I understand that it's easier for negative, but I don't understand why does that happen? Why somebody just says, I'm going through a rough time. Let me just think about, when I was younger, I was left in the house by myself. So that's what caused me to be this way, more than saying, you know what happened? Something good happened when I was younger. I had a sister that was born. Boom, boom, boom. I remember that time. It felt so good. Let me go on with my life.
I think a lot of times that happens is because it kind of goes unchecked. And I think if you're in any terrible situation and it goes unchecked, I guess because of the pain and the grief that you've experienced, it causes you to sometimes resonate with that more so than the positive. And as you said, humans, we are more so attracted to the negative.
Or trained.
Or we're trained. Learned behavior, right?
Yes.
We're trained to think, like when you're watching the news, the majority of it is a negative, but we sit down for hours and we're like, whoa,
Yeah.
But we're sitting at a wedding. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. When can I leave? You know what I'm saying? And so I think we have to train our brains. So that's why I love CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, because they train your thinking process, your thinking patterns to be more positive. You want to think more positively. And I love that you said that, because it should be that, okay, I'm having a bad day, but I remember when my sister learned how to ride her bike. It was so exciting because we got to ride our bikes together and we met friends and all of those things. And so now this negative situation becomes 5 minutes instead of 30 minutes or a couple of days or a lifetime, because my focus is now shifted. And that's something that we just have to learn. So I do agree. It's something that we have to train our human nature to do so, because our human nature is innately negative. Like we just have, I felt terrible. Oh my goodness. Like when you hear a song, you start crying like, oh my gosh, he broke up with me. But it's hard when you're thinking of a positive situation. It's a little more difficult to remember in some cases.
Well, let me tell you this. By the powers of the Success Journey show, we would like to say that your dissertation is approved. You are now Dr. Grant.
Wait, so you passed the bar?
You passed the bar. Don't worry about it. You got it. You're good to go. So we'll send you your certificate in the mail.
Yeah.
No, listen, man.
No, with a Sharpie.
Yeah, and a Sharpie, right?
Good job.
Yeah, good job. Listen, man, I love Marlon. Thanks for going deep in those questions, because we're in a society now where a lot of these things are not being addressed, especially at this young age with a lot of these kids, a lot of these students. And I mean, let's say it, man. Sometimes we don't have the resources for it. Your pay grade is different from a teacher in the classroom than a trained psychiatrist, and some school systems don't have the resources to do it. So they're like, well, my kid just don't need that today. He'll be okay, and then all these different traumas that are going on in this child's life, he's holding them, and they're becoming permanent fixes. I know what is it? Permanent, synapses, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Permanent, wiring, imprints in their brain for years and years to come, because we don't have the resources available to them to address them when they're needed. And I really appreciate just hearing what you're saying, and also, man, just want to encourage you on your journey to fulfill this role in this world, because it's needed. We talk about how can we change our society today, all the negative that's going around, and honestly, it's kind of hard to change adults that are, already fully ingrained in what they do. But if we can
train
the kids, man, to go different, and that is what's going to change our future. So, man, Elena, man, you just been really just hitting it, the nail on the head with us today. And I want to ask you this question. One question that we usually ask our guests as we start wrapping up is, with everything that now, and we only scratch the surface of the things that you're doing and your knowledge base and things that you're studying, and your experiences, but everything that now, right? And you look back at, let's say, finishing senior year in high school, whatever, you get ready to leave, home and go out and, the whole new world, right? And you had 1 minute to spend with yourself. What would you say?
So what would I say to my old self?
Yeah. What would you say to your old self? Yeah.
I would say,
I'm thinking what you're go ahead.
Don't do it. I would say be confident. I think for me and my personal journey, and I'll be transparent, I think that's something I struggled with because, growing up in a Caribbean family, they're very critical. right? And you have to display some type of tough skin or you're just going to always be in pain. Yeah. And so I had to come to that realization, like, okay, I'm good at this. I accept what I'm good at, and I'm okay with what I'm not good at. And I had to come to that conclusion because there was always a struggle of comparing myself to something else or someone else. Or if I did this better, or if I said this like this. So I think for me, it would be to Elena, my younger self, be confident in what you know and be confident knowing that you are a child of God. And we say that more so like a cliche, but it's so important because you are a child of God. Yeah. And what God has for you, you have to understand that he has made pathways for you. Yeah. So, and he's designed you just for that task. Mm-hmm. And Esther says, for such a time as this, God has put me here at this moment, at this time. And I have to be confident with him and within myself to know that, okay, if God gave me this talent, this skill set, he's going to see me through. And so that is what I would tell my younger self, because it would have saved me a lot of time. And even though God has prepared, he has readjusted my role 60,000 times to bring me here. But I think that just like the Israelites for 40 years, a 40-year task could have been just a year.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's just being confident, knowing that God and entrusting my livelihood with God and knowing that he's going to see me through.
Yeah.
Love it.
Rick, we didn't purposely. We don't want to only celebrate women once, 1 month for the year. Yeah. We want to celebrate them straight through the year. That's me and Ricky's. We don't do New Year's resolution. We have a different concept of a New Year's resolution and celebrating people. We don't want to just 1 month and forget you then next month. I know this is probably going to air probably the end of this month, or in April.
You're right. Yeah.
Can you just give what just a little tidbit to the females, to women out there, girls, Black girls, white girls, Asian, whatever it is?
So women, we are at the top of, we are now in the White House. We are doing things that we never had the opportunity to do. So if you have an idea in mind right now, this is the time to bring it into fruition. This is the time to any idea, anything that you have in your heart, this is the time to do it. Seize the moment, because this is your moment. It's always been our moment, but now the men see that this is our moment. So I want you to embrace that. I want you to embrace your beauty, whether you're light skinned, whether you're dark skinned, whether you're Asian, whether you're Mexican, whatever nationality you are. I want you to embrace who you are and whose you are, because that's going to carry you through the remainder of your life.
Amen.
Thank you. Well,
we are collecting all the offering at the link below. Check out the book, all through the book. All the proceeds were going to purchase that book. So you might as well go straight there and get the book. Tell me the name of the book again, where they can find it, and where they can link with you and follow more of what you're doing, Elena.
So A New First Day, I want you to make sure you can see it.
Yes. Yep. Beautiful.
Okay. A New First Day, you can find it on Amazon, BookBaby, Target, Barnes & Nobles. Okay. So it's available there for you. Amazon, I know everyone loves Amazon Prime, 2-day delivery, perfect. So you can get on Amazon, but also BookBaby and Target, Barnes & Nobles.
Love it.
And where they can link with you.
Yep.
We didn't get where they can link with you for some. If they want to link with you on social media, wherever you would prefer them to link you at.
If you would like to continue looking at my journey and coming on my journey with me,
there you go.
I'm on Instagram, Elena_Grant. I'm also on Facebook, so you can see me there.
Love it. Well, travelers, and we come to the end of another show. We told you, man, we're coming with guests that Marlon, we've been in season 4 for a long time. I was going back and counting all the episodes we had, but this has been a strong season. I don't know where to end it at, right? Because
no, this has been a strong season.
Continues on and on, sharing their story, and it's been beautiful. Elena, it's been great catching up with you again, seeing all the beautiful things that you are doing. Man, we're praying for you. Continued blessings, all the strength you need going through your PhD program, your family, the whole nine. We just want to see you flourish and do great things on your journey. And all of our travelers, we want to thank you again for being with us for another episode 101. Yes, guys, we crossed the 100 mark, and we want to thank you for being with us. Again, listen, go to our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Check out the books you can buy. Check out the book bags that we mentioned that you can buy. Check out the t-shirts that you can get. Guys, you buying this not only helps us put this together for you, but allows us to be able to support other charities in the area, feeding the homeless and things of that nature, man. We're about giving here. So listen, we will see you guys next week at the same time, at the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.